Let me first thank you all for your continuing interest in the story about carbon monoxide leak at Finch Elementary. We appreciate your coverage of all sides of this issue. I also want to indicate what we want to do here today. We would like to bring you up to speed on where we are as this situation evolves, and I'm going to be assisted by our Associate Superintendent, Steve Smith, as well as the State Fire Marshal, Chris Stevens, and they're going to provide you an update on the leak, and after that we'll take time to answer any questions that you might have. As we were Monday, we were here, of course, Tuesday, and we indicated that we would be tracking down the source of this leak at that point in time. And since then, we've been working frantically along with our colleagues at the state to identify what caused this. We've tried to recreate the situation, and we have some new developments to share with you. Focus has been, since the beginning of the week, really on simple, well, I shouldn't say simple, but on equipment failure. However, after some continuing internal discussions, we have reviewed the internal tapes of the school, and we have, it's become apparent that that equipment in the school was serviced on Friday prior to the Monday incident. And this now has led us down a new path of investigation, and that is the path of human error versus equipment failure. We have identified and communicated with two individuals who entered the school as well as the boiler room on Friday. Unfortunately, as we searched for answers earlier this week with respect to the leak, neither of these two individuals came forward. To say that I am disappointed in this behavior would be an understatement. To say that it is not consistent with our behavioral standards, nor does it meet our expectations, is also something I want to make very clear. This is obviously a very serious matter. We have now launched a full investigation of that. Again, we hold our employees to the highest ethical standards, and we intend to address these issues swiftly. As I stated on the last conference, the safety and security of our students is our top priority, and we're not going to tolerate any actions or missteps that compromise the health and safety of our students. Again, I want to stress that this is an open investigation. We need to look at what happened, what protocols were followed or not followed, what protocols were present or not present, what role did supervision play in this as well. So there are a lot of things that we have to investigate, but I do want to make it clear to the public that we now believe that there was human error involved, and we are going to track down the source of that. So with that, let me turn the program over to Associate Superintendent Steve Smith, and then we're going to he's going to be followed by the Assistant Fire Marshal, and after that, Mr. Smith will come back and he'll sort of moderate some questions and answers. So, Steve?
Thank you. We'd first like to be able to thank the officials from the State Insurance Commissioner's Office who've joined us for the press conference today. I also would like to thank the officials from the city's fire department and the State Fire Marshal, his office. They played a very vital role in our recovery process, and we'd like to publicly thank them. The purpose of today's press conference is to update the community with regard to this past Monday's Finch Elementary School carbon monoxide event and our continuing effort to restore Finch Elementary School to its full academic operation. Monday, December 3rd, as a quick recap, you'll recall that Monday, December 3rd, we received reports that students and staff members were sick as a result of a potential carbon monoxide leak at Finch Elementary School. Carol Evans, who's a principal, performed a heroic effort, and we'd like to thank her publicly for her leadership with regard to that emergency. Immediately, we evacuated the building and alerted EMS. Atlanta Fire and EMS teams arrived on the scene and evaluated students and staff members. Fire Marshal then walked the building with a carbon monoxide meter and confirmed the presence of gas in the building. The boiler was inspected in 2011 by the state agency and passed the inspection. The boiler is not due for another inspection until 2013. Our safety and security team implemented our contingency plan, whereby we actually, approximately 500 students were safely transported to Brown Middle School. 40 students were transported to Hugh Spalding's Children's Hospital. 7 adults were transported also to the hospital. They were evaluated and released. Finch Elementary School parents were contacted via robocalls, our robocall system, within 1 hour of the incident. We also made personal calls to parents of students who were transported to the hospital. At the same time, we published information on the school's website, sent additional robocalls, and communicated via our social media channels to ensure that parents had the most up-to-date information about this matter. At the conclusion of the school day, students were safely transported to their assigned bus stop. Back to Finch, also where they walked home and/or were taken home after school, by after-school care. We determined that we needed more time to assess the situation and decided to have school at Kennedy Middle School. Kennedy has the capacity to accommodate our students from Finch. This is an ideal location to this segment of students from the middle school population while providing them with enough space to continue school. 247 of the 500 students attended school at Kennedy Tuesday. We do not have Wednesday's count, and as you know, those students are currently, as of today, at Kennedy Middle School as well. We decided to keep the students at Kennedy for another 2 days as we continue to try to identify the cause of the leak and eliminate any future carbon monoxide risk. The installation of a temporary boiler was completed last evening. The appropriate governing authorities are currently conducting their reviews, and we anticipate that the fire marshal will issue an occupancy permit for Finch Elementary School today. A new permanent boiler has been ordered and will be installed in the coming weeks. And as I close, I'd also like to share with you that the carbon monoxide detectors have been installed at Finch Elementary School, and the district is currently developing a plan to install carbon monoxide detectors across the entire district. What did we know about the cause of the carbon monoxide event? The state boiler inspector has determined that the cause of the carbon monoxide event was caused by the failure of the maintenance technicians to reopen a valve leading to the heat exchanger. The valve was closed on Friday, November 30, in order to accomplish preventive maintenance work. The district's maintenance department is currently reviewing its maintenance protocols and routines in an effort to identify gaps and opportunities to implement additional controls. The safety and security of our students and employees is our top priority, and it's one of our top priorities. And at this time, I'd like to bring up our Assistant Fire Marshal, Mr. Chris Stevens, who will provide further information to you, and we will then return to the podium to answer further questions. Mr. Stevens.
Thank you and good morning. Would like to report to you that the boiler that was in question has been taken out of service. It has been red tagged by the department. Currently, there has been a temporary boiler put in place. Our inspection team that have been on site have finished and completed their inspection of the temporary boiler. We have the report indicating that the boiler does meet the state code approval. We have actually gave a copy of that permit or of that inspection report to the Atlanta Public School System as well as to the Atlanta City Fire Department. And as indicated earlier, it will be up to the Atlanta Fire Department to release the school for occupancy. That is basically the conclusion of our update. I will be happy to try to answer any questions that we may have, you may have later. Thank you.
At this time, we'd like to have the opportunity to moderate a Q&A. And I'm not sure also if we mentioned earlier, if it were mentioned, to my right is the board chairman, Mr. Reuben McDaniel. The board vice chairman, Mr. Byron Amos, is to my left as well. And at this time, we also have the individual who is the Deputy Superintendent of Operations, Larry Hoskins, who was introduced earlier. Larry and his team certainly are to be commended for the outstanding work that they've done thus far in making sure that this investigation was completed in a well, the investigation has not been completed, but the investigation as we've started it, his entire team, facilities and security, have been outstanding in making sure that the grounds were safe and that this process is handled in a way that is really effective and efficient. So with that, we will move into a Q&A session.
Yes, sir. Shay Rossi with Channel 2 Action News. Wanted to find out who gave the okay on Monday for maintenance workers to dismantle that boiler before state inspectors arrived.
Well, our individuals, as we understand it, were on site. They were in the process of making sure that the area that you're mentioning actually had the proper protocols followed. I do not know. We will have an opportunity for an individual to respond specifically to that question, but we know and understand that the individuals were in the process of trying to determine what the cause actually was. In no way was there any intention to do anything other than what they should be doing. Our understanding, and Mr. Hoskins can and will confirm that, he's coming to the podium, is that it was actually routine maintenance and actually been described as preventive maintenance.
Now that you know the problem was caused by human error, why are you still replacing the boiler?
I will let Mr. Hoskins specifically answer that, but quite frankly, it would be out of an abundance of caution. And I would let Mr. Hoskins respond specifically to that.
Yeah, the plan to replace the boiler is as a result of the boiler undergoing a tremendous amount of stress, obviously, for roughly 48 hours over the past weekend. As we mentioned earlier, we haven't identified any issues or defects with the boiler, but do want to remove the boiler in order to be able to thoroughly investigate to ensure that none of, that there weren't any other or any portions of the boiler that were defected as a result of what it experienced over the weekend.
And will you address her question as to why your team disassembled the boiler before the state inspectors could get there?
Right. I think disassembled is a strong word, but what they actually did, the maintenance department, when they responded, they opened the covers on the boiler to see if they could determine what the issues were. They're problem solvers, troubleshooters, and try to respond to the situation. As Mr. Smith mentioned, there was no intent to obstruct an investigation or to compromise the scene. I just think it's just kind of in their nature, and certainly we will review our protocols. We will meet with the state inspector and the fire marshal's office to ensure that going forward that our responses to these types of situations are in accordance with their expectations.
Why put in a temporary boiler? Why not just fix the problem right up front?
Well, it takes a while to, to procure a new boiler. And we understand how important environments are to students, especially young students. So we want to return them to their normal environment, restore normalcy as much as we can in their lives. And you know, we will move in the background in order to, you know, to restore the infrastructure at times where we are not negatively affecting the educational environment.
Yeah, there seems to be a sense that this boiler is okay. That is not an assumption that you should walk away with. The boiler, because of the maintenance that was performed, operated under stress in a condition in which it's not really designed to operate for approximately 48 hours. We do not know what that did to the boiler. And so simply putting it back in service and not replacing it would not be the prudent thing to do at this point. So we may have, in fact, through our practices, injured the boiler.
What does a new boiler cost?
It's going to cost us roughly $52,000 to procure a new boiler.
Can you talk about the carbon monoxide detectors that are being installed or have been installed at Finch? I mean, what type of system have you guys chosen to go with, and what's the discussion right now about creating that district-wide policy?
Well, I don't know the specific brand, but what I do know is that it is a brand that's conducive with our life cycle, or our systems in the building. We have tied these monitors into our Linnell system so that we get alarms when we have levels in the buildings that are out of compliance. But going forward, you know, we're in the preliminary phases of developing a plan to implement carbon monoxide detectors across the entire district.
I mean, is the determination that carbon monoxide detectors will be installed throughout the district?
Yes.
Will Finch be open for students tomorrow?
We hope so. We're anticipating an occupancy permit today.
And also, when you do get the new boiler, will the school have to close during the time that it is installed?
No. We will install the boiler at the appropriate time. We're hoping to receive the boiler prior to our holiday break and install over the 2-week time period that the students will be on holiday.
2 more questions. Is that it?
Well, I mean, this has just been really a long week. It's Thursday, but I'm sure for everyone involved, it feels like it has been much longer than 4 days or 3.5 now. What do you guys feel is really the takeaway from this? I mean, there are districts across Metro Atlanta, across the state, that are now assessing whether they should have detectors based off this incident. I mean, what really, as you walk away today, is sort of your sense of awareness or accomplishment?
Well, we certainly didn't. It was never our goal, of course, to set out to create awareness for the state on this issue. But again, if that is a positive that comes out of this, then I think that is a good thing. But we also learned that we really shouldn't rush to conclusions about, you know, what happens until you do thorough investigations. We do have a number of buildings under refurbishment or rebuilding now, such as Maynard Jackson and North Atlanta, and we certainly, in the course of normal construction, will now be installing these types of devices. But again, we have to start to understand how many and where, you know, only in boiler rooms, only in kitchens, and those types of things. Those we have to work through. And if you're going to tie these things into our alarm and security systems, then this is not the $29.95 variety of detector, and we'll have to have something a little bit more heavy duty that we can hardwire, as Mr. Hoskins said, into our system. And so that is not without cost. We believe that, again, our capital budgets will allow us to do that, but We also think that we should look not so much the legislation, which we would support, but the building codes. And because we can change building codes much more quickly, and also it can be done on a local level to fit local conditions. And so we would look to engage those who are in the business of setting building codes to discuss whether these should be required in future building codes as well.
Last question.
What's the status of the 2 employees?
Again, we have identified the 2 employees. I expressed my disappointment that they had not come forward sooner. We have launched an investigation, and certainly I'm not going to opine in terms of what's going to happen to anyone before investigation is completed. And I also don't want to focus just on 2 employees. I have been very fond of saying all problems are leadership problems. And leadership does play a role in these types of incidents, because we're responsible for assessing risk, we're responsible for putting the appropriate protocols in place, we're responsible for defining response actions. And in this case, again, I want to compliment the principal for her role in a response action, because I think she did a wonderful job there. If you look at the objective of getting kids out of school safely, that was accomplished. Getting them transported to a new environment without incident, that was accomplished as well. And to fill in with Mr. Smith's comments, I think we have in the principals here, but 428 kids there today. Out of 505, and so we're ramping back up to normal at Kennedy, and so we'll get back to Finch as soon as we can. Thank you for your interest.